today I'm coming at you with a bare face because I want to do a full face of my February favorites. And I also pulled a couple of products that were likes but not loves, and I will explain why. And then I also want to chat about my fails along the way, and those won't be going on my face because they didn't work for me, so why would I want to put them on? Also, hi, if you're new here, my name is Nupur and I love indie makeup and all things color and sparkle, and I would really appreciate it if you gave this video a like and considered subscribing if you aren't already subscribed, because I am relatively new to YouTube still and it really helps me out. So for this video, I do have a lot of newer products, but I did pull a few older favorites just because I don't want these favorites videos to be just focused on the new. I also want to show you older gems from my collection that have been getting a lot of love and that I've been using from the previous month. And since I'm doing this video in the format of applying these products on my face, it's not going to be separated in categories like all the favorites first and then the fails at the end. I'll just be doing them in order of application, and I will of course let you know which category each of them falls into. I just really wanted to do it in the format of applying it to my face because I want to talk you through why something is my favorite, how it applies, and kind of do sort of a mini review, because since they are my favorites, I've been using them for a while and I have kind of a solid opinion on them, and I want to talk through that as I apply them. So currently I only have skincare on as well as a bit of a tinted lip balm just to prep my lips for later. But the first product that I'm going to apply on my face is going to be a glowy primer type of product, because the foundation that I'm going to use next is one that I really prefer to use over a glowy primer. So the first product is a like but not a love, and it's the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Glowy Serum. It's the Glow Serum. And the reason that I like these but don't love them is they get the job done. They do exactly what they claim to do, and they definitely give you a very plump, juicy base, and it's glowy without being shimmery or glittery. It's a very fine pearl that's in here. But the thing that I don't like about it is that it's fragranced. And I have sensitive skin. Fragrance can irritate me. Sometimes it can clog my pores. Sometimes it can cause an eczema rash. And I just try to generally avoid products with fragrance, at least repeated use. Once in a while, it's fine to use it. So I am actually going to use this today, but I do wish that they made these without fragrance. These come in 3 shades, and it's quite a runny formula, very thin and almost watery, and there are some oils in the formula, but it doesn't feel oily on the skin. And you can see as I rub it out here, it gets very sheer. Danessa did say that these are universal shades, and all 3 of these shades can be used by people who have any skin tone, which is really nice to see. Even rubbing it out, that fragrance is so strong and it really does annoy me. I'm going to use the shade Juice Boost today, and I just take it on my fingers like this and rub it between my fingers, and then I will just put it all over my face. I will say that as I'm rubbing it into my face, the fragrance kind of dissipates and I don't sense it as much, but when I first put it on, it's very strong. Hopefully you can see I already had some moisturizer on that gave me a bit of a glow, but this really intensified it and it made my skin feel a lot more plump, and just this finish that it gives to the skin I feel like really helps with my foundation going on the way that I want it to. The finish that it gives to the skin is not like, it's not tacky, but there is a little bit of like, I don't want to say stickiness because that is very much not it, but it's not a smoothing primer, you know? It's not one where your finger is just going to glide over your skin like one of those silicone-y blurring ones. And this is not necessarily meant to extend the wear of your makeup either. Danessa actually has a different product that I sometimes use in conjunction with this that does claim to extend the wear. And that product is the Blurring Balm Powder. This is in the shade Radiant, which is also a new release. And this was a fail for me. So I do quite enjoy the original Blurring Balm Powder in the shade Universal. That's just a translucent finish. And I do find that when I apply that in my T-zone, it will help with kind of blurring the texture of my pores and absorbing oil, which as I've gotten older, I've noticed that my T-zone is getting a bit more oily while the rest of my face remains dry. So I do enjoy using the Universal shade in my T-zone, but this one, I did try using it all over my face and I really did not like it. This was a fail for me. The reason that this was a fail for me was once you actually apply it on the skin, in the pan, it does look a little just luminous, but once you actually put it on your skin, I will say that when you blend this out, the finish of it is similar to the Universal shade because it has that very like soft touch feel to it, but up close you can see that there are very fine shimmer particles in this, and when I applied it to my face, they were painfully obvious. I did not like them. Even when I applied foundation on top, it didn't really cover up those shimmers. And with the serum, the shimmer in here is much more of a fine pearl, which means you don't actually get any obvious shimmer particles on your face. It's just a beautiful sheen. But with the blurring balm powder, I could see obvious specks of sparkle on my face, which it's just not something I enjoy. I'm going to apply the rest of my base because I don't really have any notable favorites in this category. I just have my staple products that I always use. So I'm going to do all those things and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with my base done. I did foundation, concealer, powder, bronzer, eyebrows, and eye primer, and I'll have the details for all of that listed in the description box below. I want to do my blush next, and this product is definitely a favorite, and it's been a favorite for quite some time now. I've had this blush since I think I want to say like May of last year, but I was inspired to pull it out again because of my friend Hope Miss Tom, who used it in their recent video. And this is the blush from Trixie Cosmetics in the shade Cult Classic, which is a beautiful brown blush. If you know me, you know that I love brown blush. I think something about it is so flattering on medium and deeper complexions, because I think due to color theory, the way that brown blush works is the brown in the blush is going to combine with the brown in your skin, therefore pulling out the undertones of the blush. And so with this shade and other similar brown blushes, typically they turn into more rosy blushes on me while still being neutral instead of being like a straight up pink. This blush is so interesting because it's not a matte blush. It actually has tiny little specks of shimmer in there that are mostly silvery, and I don't really like overtly shimmery blushes. Like if blushes have a sheen, I like that, but I don't want them to be sparkly, and these do look like sparkles in the pan, but when it applies to your cheeks, the effect is just more of a fine shimmer. I don't know, it doesn't read as sparkly. And what I like to do to apply it is take a brush that is not too dense, that is more fluffy and has a lot of room in between the bristles, and I'll take it and I'll tap it a few times into the pan, and then what I'll do is I will really work it into the palm of my hand, get some pigment off, and then I will go ahead and apply it to my cheeks. I do really like to tap it off my hand first, just because this blush is quite pigmented and I don't want it to go on as like just a brown streak, you know? And I'll just sort of lightly tap it on like this, and I feel like tapping it on rather than sweeping it on, for some reason, it allows the shimmer to kind of fall off a bit so that it's not overtly shimmery. And working it into the palm of my hand also took off some of the shimmer so that it's on my hand and not on my cheeks. I think you can see now that it's on that it doesn't even look necessarily brown, at least on me. It looks more like a neutral rosy flush on me. Next, I'm going to do my eyeshadow, and I'm going to be using at least one of these two palettes from Jason Wu, which I used quite a bit in the month of February, and I have not heard anyone talking about these. So I was gifted these in PR from the brand, and at first I didn't really think much of them because I was like, oh, more neutral mattes. I'm probably not going to get much use out of them because I already have neutrals in my collection, and how wrong I was. One of my friends recently asked for makeup hot takes in her story, and one of the things that I said was that I don't think that all mattes have to be super pigmented, because I love my indie brands and they make super pigmented shades, which are good for a lot of my bolder looks, but sometimes with my day-to-day makeup, or if I'm just in a scenario where I don't want to go super bold with my eyeshadow, I want a really light sheer wash of mattes, and then I just want to put like a light sparkly shade on top and call it a day. And that can be just a little trickier to achieve with super pigmented shades. It's definitely doable. Like you could sit there and put like a light wash of your setting powder over your eye and then go in with a neutral matte to kind of sheer it out. But that's an extra step. And the whole reason that I want a sheer matte is because I want to be blended out in like 30 seconds. And these mattes make that possible. I'm not saying that they don't have any pigment. I just mean that they're more of a buildable pigment, and they're not going to go on and be difficult to blend out. This is the Desert Mauve palette that has more cool tones as well as a couple more pinky mauve shades. And this is the Mahogany palette that has more warm tones and browns. I definitely use this one more in the month of February just because I have been in my cool toned era. So just to be faithful to the fact that this is my February favorites video, I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to start with this shade, and I'm just going to run that through my crease just to give the other mattes something to blend into. And You can see this is going on with a very light level of pigment just because it is a lighter shade, but also just due to the nature of the formula that I was talking about. And just quickly taking that under my lower lash line as well. Going in with this shade next. And I'm doing something similar, but keeping the pigment lower right into the very depths, the crease of my eye, and then also taking it into the outer corner. And once again on the lower lash line, but just on the outer third. And for a little depth, I'm dipping into this shade. I'm just fluffing that on the outer third of my lid and then bringing it outwards, blending it into that previous shade. Going in with another layer to intensify that depth, and once again taking it on the outer lower lash line. So hopefully you can see that took very little time to blend out, and I did want to use multiple shades to build some depth just to show you that the mattes do layer well and you can achieve a smokier look. But what I've also done in my day-to-day a lot of the time is just use either this one or this one for a super light wash just through the crease and on the outer corner, and then I'll slap on a multi-chrome and call it a day. I do want to mention that these palettes aren't super special or unique by any means. You can absolutely get like sheer lighter wash of mattes from other brands that are in the same price point, because these are on the more affordable side. They're $13 each, but you could easily get this effect from something like ColourPop mattes or even some K-beauty brands that typically have less pigmented mattes and are also on the more affordable side. This is just what I have been using in the month of February. Before we get into the shimmer that I want to put on my lid, I want to talk about another favorite, which is the Clionadh Shine On Shimmer Enhancer that was made in collaboration with Back to the Brow, aka Millie. So the reason that I love this product is I don't always like to use tacky glitter glue type of primers, because when you use something like that, it causes the sparkly shadow that you put on top to go on very foiled and reflective and metallic, which is a certain type of aesthetic that I don't always want. Sometimes I want a more sheer, scattered wash of sparkle, and instead of using a grippy, tacky primer, I'll just put the shimmer onto just the regular primer that I have on. But this doesn't have a tacky finish. It goes on clear, and once it dries down, it's almost like a soft touch feel to your lids. And I would say that it does grip onto shimmers and increases the longevity the way that a glitter primer does, but it doesn't give that ultra foiled metallic finish, and I really, really love that. So I like to first put it on the back of my hand, and then I will take a brush and I will pick up the product with a brush, and then I will take that and tap it onto my lid. I feel like doing it with my finger, I risk getting too much on and also putting it like too far up, and I just prefer the precision that comes with a brush. So now for the shimmer, I'm going to dip into this palette from Titanium Fox. This is the Grackle Shot palette, which came out, I want to say, at the end of December, but I have had more time with the palette now, and I used it a few times in February, and this is definitely a favorite for me because I feel like this winter we saw a lot of color stories that were more icy and pastel-y and almost a little desaturated, which is everything this palette is not. And I'm not saying that I don't like more icy color stories, I just felt like this was such a unique offering amongst all those other ones, and I just think that this palette is so beautiful. To continue with the neutral theme that's going on my face right now, I'm going to dip into this shade, Dripping Feathers, which I have used before, and it's just the most beautiful smoky neutral shade. And this is gonna go over the outer 2/3 of my lid. I always like to start with my finger and then switch to a brush to shear out the pigment as I get towards my crease and the outer corner. Since that shimmer was pretty smoky and it's beautiful, but I don't want it to get too deep in the inner third over here, I'm gonna dip into another palette that I reached for a lot in February, and this is also in my 2024 palette favorites, and that is the Unearthly Gargoyle palette. I specifically want to use this shade here, Guardian, and I'm just using the brush to put that in the inner third of my lid, and then sweeping it into that Dripping Feathers shade. The Gargoyle palette is obviously a favorite, but this shade, Guardian, is like a super favorite because it is so unique and special. I don't have a single shade that looks exactly like this. The combination of the sparkles on this light sheer green base is just so unique. My last favorite for my eyes, at least for eyeshadow, is technically not even an eyeshadow. It is the Skin of a Killer highlighter from Bella Beaute Bar, and even though this is technically a highlighter, I don't really use sparkly shades like this on my face. I'm not really much of a highlighter person in general, especially such sparkly highlighter, but I've really been enjoying using this on my inner corners. This highlighter has a slightly finer particle size and a bit more of a base than the Skin of a Killer single shadow that was originally in the Vamp palette, but I actually prefer this texture for an inner corner because the original Vamp single shadow is a bit more textured and has a slightly larger particle size, which makes it a better topper shade for my preferences. And for inner corner shadows, I typically prefer them to be a bit more on the smooth and small particle size, which is why this highlighter is better for me, at least as an inner corner shade. I still do really love the Skin of a Killer single shadow as a topper shade because the texture in that makes it so pretty all over the lid. Now to finish up the eyes, I obviously have to do mascara, and I want to talk about a like but not a love, and that is this mascara from Lancome. This is the Flutter Extension Mascara from Lancome, and this claims to be a clump-free lengthening mascara, and while I do think that it's clump-free, I don't think that it's particularly lengthening, and it doesn't claim to give you volume, but I just feel like it didn't perform that well. I will say that this is the type of mascara I prefer for more simple looks because I just think that, and I wouldn't even call this simple. By simple, I mean like a super light wash of matte and a super light wash of sparkle, because I feel like with that kind of look, I just want a lighter, fluffier lash, and so that's why I do like this, but it's not something that I use for a lot of my makeup on camera, which is more of my bolder looks. And I don't know if part of that is this wand. This is a very skinny wand and the bristles are very short, and I feel like this kind of wand doesn't work really well with my lashes. It'll give me a much lighter coating of mascara, and with other mascaras I can get away with doing one coat, but with this I definitely had to do 2 coats to get it to even like a light layer. I also really quickly have to talk about the packaging that this came in, like the box that it came into me, because it was one of those over-the-top PR packages that I really dislike because it's just so wasteful. I'll pop up some photos on the screen so you can see, and I had my dog sit next to the box for size reference. She's 12 pounds, she's a pretty small dog, but this box was so big, and inside the box was another box and then another box, and then within the compartments of the final box there were so many things like a selfie stick and a tape measure, and there was a mirror in the cardboard packaging too, which that packaging went right into the trash and the recycling, and so I just felt like it was really wasteful, and especially for something as small as a mascara, it just felt really ridiculous, and I don't know if I would have accepted this PR package if I had known it was coming to me in this way. So instead, I'm going to go in with the Mob Mascara, which I have been using a lot throughout February, and I've talked about this before, but I really, really like this. Between the brush, which is more of a volumizing bristle brush, and the formula itself, it gives me really volumized, beautiful, bold lashes, and I'm really enjoying this formula. Here are the eyes with the mascara on, and hopefully you can see just how voluminous and defined my lashes are. I really, really love this mascara. And here's the eye look up close and slightly out of focus so you can see all of that texture and the sparkle. And I just feel like all of these shades really are just the epitome of special spicy neutrals. And then here are some quick swatches of all 3 shades, just so you can see all of the shifts and what they look like when they are not on my lids. So the last category of products is lippies, and I have 3 products to talk about. I'm going to be starting with a fail, and that is the glosses from Simply Posh Cosmetics. And what makes these a fail is the effect that they have once you get them on your lips. So these are sheer, slightly milky neutral glosses, and they look so pretty and shiny when they're on my hand, but the second that I get it on my lips, first of all, it goes on a little streaky, and I don't know if that's due to the milkiness, but also after I apply it on my lips, I can see it settling into my fine lines, and especially because they're slightly milky, it's pretty visible, and it may only be visible from up close, but I just don't like that effect. And so for that reason, I will probably be decluttering these now that I have had some time to really test them out, and I just don't like them. So the next 2 products are a little similar in nature, so I want to talk about them together in terms of what I like about this type of product, but also separately to differentiate them, and they are the Kulfi Lussy Lip Staining Lip Oil, as well as the NYX Lip IV Hydrating Gloss Serum. These are both glossy lip stains, which is a type of product that I've always been interested in, and my first experience with them were K-Beauty lip stains, which typically tend to run a little warm and reddish or pinky, and what I love about these two stains is that they stain, I wouldn't say true to color, but they're not your typical reddish stains. Here are the shades up close, and you can see that this NYX one is much deeper and like a brownish mauve shade versus the Kulfi one, which is more of a pinky neutral. And so depending on the look that I have on, these have been two go-to shades for me. Like if I want a bolder lip, then I'll go for this. If I want a softer lip, I'll go for this. I will say for these NYX ones, they say that they have an over time stain. So what that means is the longer that you have it on, the more powerful the stain will be. And I have worn both of these all day with multiple reapplications. And this stain does get stronger and stronger the more you reapply it. And the stain will wear off a little bit if you're eating something oily or just drinking a lot of fluids, but it stays on for a good amount of time. This also has a very interesting texture. When you apply it, the gloss is very full coverage. It's almost like a shiny liquid lipstick, but not like a matte liquid lipstick, just like a liquid lip that's in a tube, if that makes sense. And as you put it on your lips, it slowly forms this kind of film, and it's a very interesting sensation on your lips. I have heard that some people don't like the feeling of this on their lips, but I don't mind it at all. I actually quite like how plush it is on the lips. On the other hand, this Kulfi one has more of that traditional watery K-Beauty type of formula. So when you put it on, it's extremely lightweight. You almost can't even like tell that it's there once you have it on. And as you're applying it, it definitely has a bit of like a cool sensation. It's not cooling or plumping in any way. It just feels cool, if that makes sense. But I really love how much of a My Lips But Better shade that this is. Since I have worn this NYX one in a video before and I have not worn this one on YouTube yet, I think I'm going to go in with this one, especially because I think that this will go better with how much of a smoky eye I have going on. I did line my lips with Rare Beauty's lip liner in the shade Wise, and I love using this shade with a lot of these sort of neutrally My Lips But Better shades because I don't necessarily want to go in with a brown lip liner, which is another go-to shade for me because that's a lot typically darker and stronger. Sorry, I thought I saw a fly, but those are typically stronger and darker, and I don't really want to alter the shade of the lip oil. These actually go on a little lighter and then they deepen into their final shade, and they don't deepen too much, but you can see that this is it's lighter than the swatch that I showed you. So this is one light layer. It doesn't look like much. I usually like to go in with the second layer just because it's a bit more on the sheer and lighter side. And then here's 2 layers. This is the perfect amount for me. And what I love about this shade is that I have a lot of glosses that are similar to this color, but they're just traditional regular glosses. They wear off pretty quickly, and once they're gone, they're gone. There's nothing left behind. But with a shade like this, I know that it's going to wear off slowly and there's going to be a slight hint of color left behind, and then I can get around to reapplying whenever I want to, but there's still going to be a little bit of a flush to my lips. So I actually thought about one more product that I want to talk about, and this is not new. Totally. It's the Milani Make It Last setting spray, which is a long-time favorite of mine. I love this for setting my makeup. It does increase the longevity for a little bit, but it also has a little bit of glycerin in the formula, so it helps melt the powders into your skin. And I love this formula. But I always bought it in the smaller bottle, and when I last ran out of it, I bought it in this bigger size that I noticed that Ulta had, and I don't like the sprayer on this at all. The sprayer on the small one is pretty fine, and I get a nice even mist, but this one squirts out uneven and splotchy, and I get little droplets on my face, and I really dislike it, and I'm trying to power through and use it, but I just don't want to, so I don't know. I'm like, should I get a new one or should I try to finish this up? And I've tried taking the top off, but it doesn't screw off, so it's not even like I can decant this and make use of it that way. And I just want to know if you have used the setting spray, or if you've bought this large size, do you have the same issue with the nozzle? Did I get a faulty bottle, or has there been a change from the smaller size to the larger size? But that's it for this video. Please let me know what you thought about this format. I have really been wanting to do more general favorites that are not so eyeshadow focused and just get more practice talking about products that aren't eyeshadow, because I feel like when it comes to eyeshadow, I know exactly what I want to say, I know exactly how to talk about them, but when it comes to other products, I'm still learning. And I just thought that doing a favorites video in the style of actually putting them on my face would be more helpful both to you as a viewer and also to me in terms of helping me explain what I love about these products. If you enjoyed this format, I can definitely do them monthly with just kind of a roundup of stuff that I've been using that month. And I tend not to, like for this video, I didn't want to talk about, you know, the base products I use because I don't really branch out. But if people are interested, I could do a separate video just talking about my staple favorites that aren't like roll in, roll out every month favorites, but more so just like my go-to products that I use all the time. So let me know if that's something that you would be interested in. Thank you so much for watching to the end. It really means the world to me. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!